fact that in our day-to-day lives, we are most concerned about the happenings in our immediate surroundings, about events that directly affect us. As a result, we often forget about the world that exists outside of that perimeter. But there are some books that take us to this world outside our comfort zone. Today, in the 56th episode of Granthyatra, we are going to talk about a book that will acquaint us with a world that is right there before our eyes but is mostly ignored. This book is the novel Chakra or The Cycle, written by Jaywant Dalvi. It has been translated into English under the same name by the noted Marathi writer Gauri Deshpande. Jaywant Dalvi was born in 1925 at Hadfade village in Goa. The seaside town of Aravali, about 9 kilometers from Goa, was his hometown. After completing his schooling, Dalvi enrolled for a diploma in textile engineering at a college in Mumbai. However, as he had no interest in this subject, he abandoned the course and joined the daily Prabhat in Mumbai. Later, he completed his post-graduation in literature and joined the information service of the US Embassy. At the age of 50, he opted for voluntary retirement and took up full-time writing. In all, Dalvi wrote 15 collections of short stories, 21 novels, 19 plays, travelogues, and character sketches. He is well known for his social dramas and a humorous column titled Than Than Paar, which he wrote incognito for many years. Many of his famous books were turned into popular films. His very first novel, Chakra, published in 1963, was praised for widening the circle of perceptions as depicted in Marathi novel and for tackling a very unusual subject. A young man called Benoit, who is in search of work, his daily wager mother Amma, and the ruffian Luca, who has been chased out of the locality by the police, are the main characters in this novel. Characters that live a depraved life in the filthy environs of a slum in Mumbai. This is the story of men and women who constantly live in fear of the police, are always worried about their next meal, and are struggling through their lives. They barely manage to meet their needs of food, water, and shelter. At the beginning of the novel, Benoit is sitting idle, having lost his job in the glass factory. His ear is swollen as a result of the beatings received from the owner of the factory, and there is no hope of getting his pending salary. Dalvi writes, Benoit sat idle, railing against the iron pole of the roadside electric lamp. He sat alone at the edge of the footpath with his legs spread out. His vacant eyes focused at a distance without watching anything particular. A drain flowed below his legs. Whitish, muddy water that resembled the residue left after washing rice moved slowly through it. A few feet away, an old woman with a bitter face washed the mop of an 8 or 10-year-old girl with a piece of soap. The shacks in the settlement looked as if they were sitting on their haunches. Small sticks had supported and balanced these shacks that were no more than waist high. Here and there, a few rare ones were covered with pieces of tin that had holes in them. The others were covered with sundry objects. Benoit, who has grown up in this environment, has learned to adjust to his circumstances. Since he has not received any education, can't find work, and since Amma will not allow him to work at the illegal liquor vends, he is even ready to polish other people's shoes at the roadside to earn a living. He has no false hopes of ever enjoying better circumstances in life. But his mother Amma has a dream of her own. She is originally from Karnataka and has seen better times in her younger days. She longs for a shack of her own, even if small. She too has accepted her predicament. She has fondly preserved the memory of her dead husband in her mind and has established a relationship with a trucker. She is bewitched by his fair skin and wants to give birth to his fair-skinned, good-looking child. In addition, she is also attracted to Luca. She has charmed this thug who often helps her out in the hour of need. When retelling Amma's past life, Dalvi writes, Amma was lost in thought the moment she uttered the name of Pondicherry. She wiped the spicy gravy off the plate with her finger, and for a long time she kept sucking her finger and dwelling on her past. She rarely uttered the name of Pondicherry, but when she did, she would automatically go quiet. Her mind would overflow with many sweet and bitter memories. The sweet memories made her mind float, but the bitter memories would follow and sting her like bees bursting from their nest. She would become restless. Her mind would burn as if caught in an inferno, and she would struggle to forget all that had happened. Luca, who has ventured out from this very community, is now a thug, a ruffian who loots shops during riots, who makes the owner of the glass factory pay Benoit's salary after threatening him with a knife, who visits prostitute Bhagi. But he too is unable to find any work. A carefree Luca who leads a life of pleasure at the beginning of the novel is weakened by venereal diseases towards the end. He breaks into a pharmacy to steal the medicine for his disease. Benoit inadvertently gets implicated in this crime, and along with Luca, his life too is devastated in the end. The characters in this story have come together by chance from different corners of the country. While struggling to fulfill their basic needs, they are not in a position to nurture the values of a civilized life. For them, human rights and justice are beyond reach. Yet, they have their own norms, their own value system of living their life. For example, Amma helps Lakshmi get home after Lakshmi gives birth to her child while at work and pays for her taxi fare. Later, she sends some chicken curry for Lakshmi. Anna builds a shack of 2 rooms to fulfill Amma's wish. Benoit carries out the last rites for Punna after his sudden death. The people of the community who get into fights over flimsy issues, who use profane language, and who give in to their desires have not given up their humanity though. Dalvi depicts the repulsive life in the slums and its struggles with great conviction. Even when describing the dreams of his characters or their rare acts of humanity, he does not paint them in a pleasing color. Rather, he effectively recreates the reality of life in the slums with all its atrocities and the helplessness of its occupants. When the people in the settlement return after completing Punna's last rites, they demand liquor from his asthmatic son Nagu. Benoit, who had got into fisticuffs with Nagu earlier in the day, helps him in fulfilling this demand by ordering the bottles of the liquor. Here's what follows. Everyone gathered at the empty space behind the shacks. Women and men sat on their haunches. Each one of them held a coconut shell in their hands. 3 or 4 people had brought along their tin bowls. Chenna and Aisha had also joined the crowd. Then, Benoit hurriedly opened the corks of the bottles. He went to Ruka with the bottle. Now that Punna was gone, Ruka was the wisest person in the community. He stood before Ruka. He bent and tipped the bottle. But Ruka spit with fury. He banged his coconut shell noisily on the ground. He got furious and shouted in a high-pitched voice, "You scoundrel! Why you? Is it your father who is dead? Nagya should serve the drinks." On hearing this, the gathering was split into 2, with one section supporting Ruka while the other opposed him. A heated argument ensued between these 2 sections. They called names to each other. Some got up to leave. Others tried to stop them. 10-15 minutes were spent in this commotion. Then Nagu got up panting and with his back curled. He had no energy left to speak. He gave a jerk to his neck and exhaled before each one in the gathering. He touched their chins. He touched Ruka's feet in a gesture of apology. Then, Ruka sat down again after staring at the gathering with his bulging eyes. Swallowing his pride, he held his coconut shell. Nagu took the bottle from Benoit's hand and filled Ruka's shell. He then filled the shells held by all others. They all began to gulp down the liquor from their coconut shells. Dalvi thus builds a group of characters who lead an extremely diseased, destitute and beastly life. These characters have no control over their own lives, and all their struggles to bring some form of stability in their life come to a naught. The police raid Amma's new shack and destroy it. Her fetus gets aborted in the scuffle that follows. The slum of Chakra, where the community lives, is razed, and Benoit ends up in prison for no fault of his. The little dreams of the residents of the settlement are crushed. Chakra was Feted as an unprecedented novel in Marathi literature, which had never before seen such stark depiction of the life in the slums. We have with us today Dr. Smita Wankhede, who is a researcher on this topic.
जयवंत दळवींनी आजतागायत जो उपेक्षित राहिलेला विषय होता त्या विषयाला पहिल्यांदा चक्रच्या माध्यमातून समाजासमोर आणण्याचं कार्य केलं. मग अशा या चक्र कादंबरीचा आशयसूत्राचा वेध घेत असताना प्रामुख्यानं ही भूमिका नोंदवावी लागेल की पांढरपेशा समाजाची जी जीवनमूल्ये असतात या पांढरपेशा समाजाच्या जीवनमूल्यांपेक्षा वेगळी जीवनमूल्य घेऊन जगणारा आणि ती मूल्य कुठल्याही म्हणजे आपल्या जीवनामध्ये जगत असताना कुठल्याही शिष्टसंबंध मार्गानं न उपभोगणाऱ्या समाजाची ही कहाणी आहे. खऱ्या अर्थानं हा एक संघर्ष आहे दोन समाजाचा, म्हणजे एक शिष्टसमाज समाज आणि एक झोपडपट्टीमध्ये वास्तव्य करणारा समाज. दोन समाज गटातील जी विरोधाभासात्मक अशी जीवनमूल्यांची कहाणी या चक्रमधून आविष्कृत होताना आपल्याला दिसते. अस्थिर जीवन हे झोपडपट्टीमध्ये असतं आणि ही अस्थिर जीवनाची एक भळभळती वेदना घेऊन जीवन जगताना अत्यंत दारुण आणि भीषण अशी परिस्थिती या माणसांच्या जगण्यामध्ये असते. त्या परिस्थितीला त्यांना सामोरं जावं लागतं. या परिस्थितीमध्ये होरपळत असताना त्या माणसांचा जो जीवन संघर्ष सुरू आहे त्या जीवन संघर्षामध्ये सातत्यानं असे प्रसंग घडतात की त्यांच्या पशुत्वाला तिथं आव्हान दिलं जातं. त्यांच्यातील जीवनमूल्य नीतिमूल्य ही नेस्तनाबूत केली जातात. कुठेही पराक्रमाला स्थान नाही, कुठेही काहीतरी चांगलं घडलं पाहिजे ही परिस्थितीच जिथं निर्माण होत नाही त्या परिस्थितीशी संघर्ष करत त्याच्यावरती मात करत माणूसपणाची एक दुर्दम्य आशा घेऊन जगण्याचा प्रवास म्हणजे चक्र आहे. आणि हेच झोपडपट्टीचं वास्तव जयवंत दळवींनी यातनं अधोरेखांकित केलेलं आहे. हे आशयसूत्र घेऊन साकार होणारी ही चक्र कादंबरी आपल्याला झोपडपट्टीचं वास्तव प्रखरतेनं मांडते, तेवढ्याच प्रभावीरित्या ती आपल्या डोळ्यामध्ये देखील अंजन घालते. झोपडपट्टी जीवनावरील या कादंबऱ्यांमध्ये झोपडी ही त्यांचं जगणं आहे आणि ही झोपडीच त्यांच्या जगण्याचं प्रतिनिधित्व ही करते हेही आपल्याला लक्षात घ्यायचं. ही जी झोपडी तयार होते ती कशापासून होते? एखादा टिनाचा तुकडा असेल, एखादं फाटकसं गोणी असेल, पोतं असेल, कुठलं तरी बॅनर असेल, पोस्टर असेल, हे सगळे साहित्य जमवून ती झोपडी साकारली जाते. अगदी तसंच या माणसांचंही जीवन असतं. एक विरोधाभासात्मक उपहासाचा संघर्ष, म्हणजे मी असं म्हणेल की उपहासाच्या सुईनं त्यांची वेदना कोरण्याचं कार्य या चक्रमध्ये झालेलं आहे. एक साधंसं उदाहरण की आपण समाज शिष्टसंमत आपली जी काय जीवनमूल्य आहेत त्याच्यामध्ये आपण अगदी नशाबंदी वगैरे या सगळ्या गोष्टी मान्य करतो किंवा स्वच्छता असायला हवी, पण या माणसांचं जगणं तर त्या गलिच्छ वस्तीमध्येच आहे आणि तिथं त्यांच्या झोपडीवर मात्र एक बॅनर असतं की गंदगी नाही असावी, म्हणजे गंदगी नसावी किंवा नशाबंदी में नवजीवन अशासारखे बॅनर्स तिथे असतात. तेव्हा ही जी विरोधाभासात्मकता आहे ही प्रखरतेनं आपल्याला जाणवते. एक भयानकता, एक विदीर्ण करणारं वास्तव यातून अधोरेखांकित होतं. आपण सातत्यानं म्हणतो की आईचं प्रेम हे निरपेक्ष प्रेम असतं, पण ते प्रेमही इथं या वस्तीमध्ये किती अगतिक होतं याची जाणीव आपल्याला एका प्रसंगातून होते की अंड्या विकण्याचा व्यवसाय करणारी आई आपलं लेकरू एक अंड खातं म्हणून त्याला मारते की अक्षरशः त्याच्या डोक्यातनं रक्त घळघळायला लागतं, पण त्या वेदनेचं तिला दुःख होत नाही. तिला दुःख होतं एक अंड खाल्ल्यामुळे पैसा कमी झाल्याचं. ही अगतिकता, ही भयानता या झोपडपट्टीची आहे. आणि म्हणून मग या झोपडपट्टीमध्ये राहणाऱ्या माणसांचं म्हणजे जे जगणं आहे हे जगणं त्यांना असंवेदनशील करतं. कुठेतरी त्यांच्या सगळ्या संवेदनाच मारल्या जातात हेही आपल्याला प्रखरतेनं जाणवतं. आणि म्हणून चिरवेदना देणारं मृत्यूसारखं संकट किंवा मृत्यूसारखी वेदनाही त्यांच्या डोळ्यातला पाझर फोडत नाही हे वास्तव. मग हा संघर्ष करताना जगण्यासाठी मग त्यांना अवैध मार्गाचाही वापर करावा लागतो. कधी मग दारू विक्री असेल किंवा देह विक्री असेल, हेही त्यांच्या सहज जगण्याचा मार्ग असतात. ही निगरगट्टताही त्यांच्यामध्ये यायला लागते, पण ती कशासाठी येते, काय येते, का म्हणून येते याचं कारण जेव्हा शोधतो तर त्याचं उत्तर मिळतं चक्रमध्ये, की विकल परिस्थिती, अत्यंत दयनीय अवस्था, भेसूर परिस्थिती आणि त्या परिस्थितीशी जगण्यासाठी करावा लागलेला संघर्ष म्हणजे चक्र आहे. हे चक्र परिवर्तन आणतं नाही, परिवर्तन नाही, ते सातत्यानं त्याच परिघामध्ये फिरत असतं आणि हीच चक्राची शोकांतिका आहे.
The language used by Jaywant Dalvi in this novel is very natural and appropriate for the life depicted in the story. The appearance of the characters in this novel, descriptions of their attire, their idiosyncrasies, their dialogues, and the descriptions of the surroundings are a testimony to the excellent observational skills of the writer. Descriptions such as the women washing their mud-covered bodies at the water pipe of the fire brigade after returning from their work at the road construction site, Abdullah's tea stall by the roadside, the cock called Badshah who struts around the settlement with pride, provide the readers with a realistic feel of the surroundings. Do let us know in the comment section of this video your reactions on reading the novel Chakra that effectively depicts the unique struggles of a life that is unfamiliar to the middle class. We shall meet in the next episode of Granthyatra to talk about another experimental novel that had taken the world of young readers by storm. Until then, keep reading.